And look at all these wonderful Indian corns, painted corn. Wow, that's amazing. And these are all from your place, huh?
Yes, they are.
That's amazing.
The seed. All from that. And it comes out in all of these colors like this.
That is amazing.
That's how it expresses.
I'm going to talk about a little bit about the corn in my talk, the first thing, very beginning.
Awesome.
I'm going to be holding an ear.
An experiment in high alpine sustainability, incorporating permaculture, alternative energy, alternative building, and design. So join me in welcoming Diamond, who'll speak with us today as our keynote speaker. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Crestone Energy Fair for inviting the Oppenheimer Ranch Project to come and speak at this event. How is my audio? Oh. Now, obviously, it's probably been said many times, to pull this off in such a short period of time is nothing short of a miracle. And let's put our hands together for the community that pulled this off. And there's the homeowner over there, so. Now, if you passed our stand, you saw that we had some of this amazing painted mountain corn, which is some of the most genetically diverse corn on the planet. And it was created by collecting as many indigenous varieties as possible and cultivated in the most extreme climates of Montana and Wyoming. And this is the result. And so what I'm holding here is truly my Independence Day. And you should be holding something similar in your heart, it's my opinion. The genetic diversity, the work, the time and the effort, the communities that were collected into this final product, in my opinion, is something that's happening here in Crestone, independent of all the world problems that we're seeing. Many people out there, I'm sure, are feeling that the planet we live on is falling apart. Raise your hands if you're with me. Now, and this is on many fronts, the political front, the dogmatic front, and now, for those of you out there that don't believe me, we've been living in a slave nation or a slave world for quite some time. And it's my humble opinion, as a part-time conspiracy theorist, that this all began sometime way back. And I'm talking probably the real information war, and I'm sure, can anyone even see this first slide I have up here on the left? All right, well, you need to rewatch this, because this slide, if you could see it, is describing the illusion of choice. And that basically says that every single media source that now you can watch that's mainstream, including hundreds of newspapers and thousands of television stations and even tens of thousands of radio programs, are controlled by just 6 multinational corporations. Now, these multinational corporations have gotten so big that they've gotten really good at pulling the wool over everyone's eyes. And that is the illusion of choice. So if the media is controlled by just 6 corporations, and those corporations, because of something that happened in our government recently, are now allowed to vote with their dollar, then you get the next slide that I'm going to put up here. And that basically describes crony capitalism. And for those of you out there that don't know what that is, it is a type of capitalism that we have now reached, where these 6 multinational corporations can literally spend their profits, make the common man poor, as well as keep us divided at the same time politically. Now, there are people that are on the political left and the political right. There are people in the middle, and they all agree on clean water and clean air and the freedom to be free. They also want clean food. And they want transparency in their government. But we've gone way beyond that. We've gone way past the point of no return. And those of you that are awoke or awakened, in my opinion, can see this ever more in the media right before your very lives. In the mainstream media presentations that you're being fed, not necessarily for your benefit. It's simply for the detriment of the divide. Now, this division is on purpose because it drives the policy. And I'm pretty sure everyone out there knows that, I mean, I worked in the green movement for decades, fighting to stop polluting. And then that got twisted into something called carbon credits, which has nothing to do with pollution. Because the last time I checked, carbon dioxide was plant food. And since carbon dioxide has been rising on our planet, NASA has even confirmed the greening of our Earth. And so the dilution that has been created by the mainstream media that is now brainwashing everyone that plant food is somehow a pollutant is now accepted by many tens or hundreds of millions of people on purpose. And now it's being played out because we're at an election cycle. And they'll tug at your heartstrings about plant food, and you'll get to pick sides. Now, if you're old like me, I'm about to be 50, you're going to realize that it doesn't matter if the left or the right is chosen, because the planet that I've lived on has continued to be destroyed. The oceans continue to be polluted. The chemical fertilizers, pesticide runoffs, destroying our ecosystems is beyond reproach. It's not going away, it's getting worse. We still bury billions and trillions of tons of our refuse in piles. And we often do it next to native reservations so that the pollution runs their way. It's disgusting. And the powers that be have humanity bickering against each other as opposed to coming together, which is what this fair is about, and which is why I'm so moved to discuss the way I feel. Because I believed the lie for a while until I dedicated my life to researching what's really happening. And so, no, that's just my rant on the politics and the nonsense. So I want to talk about the solutions and why everyone's here. And the three topics that were discussed prior to my discussion are the most important topics we need to be discussing as a group, as humanity. Does everyone agree with me? So where do we stand now as far as alternative energy? These politicians have divided us on what we believe about alternative energy. Decades ago, many people like myself were under the opinion that renewable energies is the way to go. Wind turbines, micro hydro, photovoltaics, all these passive systems are the future. And here we are in the future, where we now have facts that they are burying wind turbines by the hundreds of thousands, soon to be millions, in fields in states like Montana and Wyoming. They're not recyclable. And they fail in a few years. So if we carry this out for a few hundred years, the entire planet is now covered in wind turbine blades, which are made of fiberglass, have no resonance time, and are unusable. Literally, we could probably be making low-income housing out of each single blade put into the ground vertically. But no one has the ability to implement that. They're now burying those blades. And photovoltaics, and don't get me started on the servos and the rare earth elements and the way that they're literally raping the planet in third world countries to mine those elements, polluting the waterways with no remediation practices. And so this is the green movement. And it includes photovoltaics, which are also unrecyclable, completely toxic. And that if everyone gets solar panels, in 100 years, the entire planet is going to be buried in fiberglass wind turbine blades and toxic solar panels. So we need another solution. And that begins with building community, starting small, like the projects in Crestone. And to continuously have discussions like this, where we're actually creating sustainable solutions using a model of resilience. Almost nothing I described in the green movement considered any of that. Have you all considered that, what I just said?
Yes.
So now here we come to the next slide, which you can't see. Which is quite unfortunate, because it describes resilience. Now, everyone in Crestone knows about that, and people that have small or off-grid homes know they need redundant backup systems for getting things like energy that they need to run the things you need. The signs around the fair here, like at the food stand, say, take as much as you need. A lot of people don't even know what that means. Well, don't I need it all? So there's a new world and a new paradigm that what I like to call the sheeple really do not even comprehend. They're so brainwashed. But just some of the strong points of resilience and things that come out of Crestone. How about the idea of multiple water sources? Yes. You know, yes, our main cultures think that water comes from the tap. Because a lot of kids I meet think that eggs come from the grocery store. So there really needs to be a new paradigm, which is beginning here, 31 years later. It's still like the very first Crestone Energy Fair, where everything is relearned for the first time. We need an emphasis on passive systems. This takes ingenuity, and it takes time. If you have a full-time job, many of these breakthroughs won't happen, which is why we need fairs like this Crestone Energy Fair. I hear the vision that there are going to be projects going on here utilizing gray water and these passive systems that can be experimented with. Now, my partner and I have been experimenting with these systems for 6 years now, and it's very important to do the experiments, because when you're learning about permaculture and geothermal energy, you need to test all the parameters to come up with the real solution. Earthship technology is great, but it's so labor intensive. So do you make it out of straw bale? Do you use earth domes, aircrete, hempcrete? These are all very understudied topics. And this is probably a community that has some of the most amazing knowledge on these topics. So first of all, give yourselves all a round of applause for being awesome. Now let's talk about sustainability. This fair is basically an example of that. The very first thing that you want to do to achieve sustainability is to reduce inputs. The power inputs. I think this whole fair is being run on a 9-volt battery. And you need renewable energy production. Unfortunately, they're using a generator back there. But it's so quiet, it's probably diesel. And biodiesel can be made as a renewable resource with waste oil. And it can be done in a 50-gallon barrel. And it's not taught in the schools. You probably have to pay a pretty penny to even find a class on that, biodiesel production. You know, what's taught in schools is that we're burning up oil and gas production, and that's another false paradigm, a dogma that we've been living with. There are new opportunities There is a completely new way to live when you combine sustainability with resilience. And if you go look at any of my CIA monitored social media sites, you'll see that for almost a decade, under my profile picture, it says that permaculture is the solution. And in my opinion, that it is literally the solution to everything I just bitched and moaned about. Because permaculture is an ethical design model on how to live, which includes every loophole you may run into. And many of those loopholes that in our current paradigm we consider problems are actually benefits. And many of those loopholes in our society that we consider marginal are the most important. It's a completely new way of thinking. It's a model and a design of life. And you can apply it to anything. You can apply it to your relationship. You can apply it to your business model. You can apply it to how you're building your house, how you're setting up your farm design. You could probably use permaculture principles to design a clothing line. The possibilities are endless. And it's all based on, I think, something that we've all lost touch with. And that is nature. And on my channel, I've been imploring everyone about a very ancient practice of forest bathing. It's called Shinrin-yoku. And it's simply the act, it's literally how you go to permaculture university. You walk out into your favorite spot in the woods where there's multiple things going on. A stream usually helps, and then you start to observe deeply what is happening. A few mushrooms help, but and what you will find is amazing, especially if you approach it that way. Forest bathing. The forest will begin to teach you about things you've never known. If your mind is open, it will help you help yourself grow better fruits and vegetables at your house. It may even help you be less of an asshole. And I need a lot of that. I need a lot of that. The forest can teach you how to catch and store energy. It can teach you a lot. The forest can teach you how to obtain a yield, which then you replicate in your front yard. So if I was in a forest and I came across a huge patch of berries that were amazingly ripe and delicious, I would take notice of what's happening around those berries and want to replicate that in my permaculture design. And that's just, it doesn't come from a classroom. And we learn a lot about renewable resources from the forest. A lot of people are obsessed with composting. It's like turkey baking to them. It's amazing. There's special 8-foot anal thermometers you put right in the thing. Now, the most important thing that comes from forest bathing, in my opinion, is the spiritual awakening that occurs. A lot of people are looking for that moment, and they're on the cusp. They're searching for something. I was one of them. And in these times of deep reflection, especially when you're alone, it is the only and the most honest time that those things can occur, independent of self. And so I highly implore everyone to start learning about permaculture by simply walking into a forest. Now, design from patterns to details. We know that geometric patterns repeat all over in nature, and this is deeply connected to the spiritual connection to the energies in those places, which is individual for everyone. So you need to go out and experience what I'm saying yourself and come to your own conclusions. But these design elements are important to incorporate in our life, in my opinion. You can incorporate it into your architecture and your alternative building. You can even incorporate it into your alternative energy designs. So I think it's very important that we consider sacred geometry as it relates to nature. And then finally, I'd like to close on a few things. And then I'd like to take some questions from the audience so I could bloviate a little more, if you prefer. But I just want to say that how full my heart is right now. And the power I get coming to events, especially with my partner, who I love, and sharing our abundance with good friends and strangers that have big hearts. And because these are, I think, some of the lessons that we are not being taught. That the easiest thing we can do as humans is to listen, to be open-minded, and to give as much as possible for the greater good of the entire planet. And I believe that the Crestone Energy Fair is the manifestation of that ideal. And so each and every one of you that came out tonight, you're now a beacon of hope that will radiate out from this place and spread the love and the community and the ideas of how we can be more deeply connected as a community. Thank you for letting me speak. It's been a good ride. Let's start the party. Does anybody have a burning desire to ask me a question?
I do.
Okay.
You guys are from Pagosa Springs?
We indeed are from Pagosa Springs.
Okay, what do you think that we can do in Crestone to kind of embody more of what you're talking about?
You know, we learned a lot, and you learn a lot from your neighbors and your community you're in. The road that we live on has a network of like-minded people that are really into sharing and bartering, and we all have unique skill sets. If you can get people in your community to maybe create a list of those skill sets so that everyone in the community could have access to see what people are willing to barter or share, you can then start to create an amazing economy. And a lot of people are against growing cannabis. I want to encourage everyone to take their legal rights to grow this. It's a weed. It's so simple to grow. You're allowed to have 3 flowering plants per person, per parcel, or whatever the law is. And this can be utilized as a trading device. It's literally like growing thousands of free dollars. It teaches you also how to become a better farmer. And cannabis, and one thing they're not telling you, those pricks, is one of the best nitrogen fixers on the planet. It surpasses legumes. So you keep the roots in the ground, cut your cannabis off, throw your money in the basement after you dry it, and continue. I mean, this is really a God-given right that I think everyone should be using. I tip like contractors that come to the house because they have to pay money for their weed. So it's really, I think, a benefit. You know, I'm a big advocate for weed. Yeah. I gave out a lot today.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh!
Interesting question about the reality is that
Hit a mic.
so if the planet is shifting for whatever reason, the centralized systems are destined for failure, if not already failing. So obviously decentralization is the way to go. But there's a point I found where we decentralize so far that we're not functional, and we're then driving back towards community, tribe, village, whatever the word. You want thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, good point. That was the Armageddon question. All right, so any of you that follow my channel or just are science nerds, we're in the bottom of a solar minimum. It's an 11-year cycle. It happens to be the 4th consecutive solar cycle dropping lower and lower, less solar activity. We just came off of a solar max in 2016-ish when the temperature peaks, because there is about a 15-year lag from when the sun peaks and the heat on the earth peaks. The earth heat peak was around 2016, but prior to that, the sun had already begun shutting down. And NASA's new and NOAA's new prediction is for it to continue to reach a 0 point where there will be no sunspots for an extended period of time, which begins around 2032, where we'll be at no sunspots for decades. Now, last time that happened, a huge portion of the planet died in horrible conditions, and there were plagues and other things. So that is a future we could be entering starting now. Now, at the same time, the magnetic field of our Earth is rapidly weakening. It began happening around 1900. It ramped up in the 1960s, and it's been exponentially weakening every decade. There's only one source of data we get. It's the World Magnetic Model. It's put out every 5 years, and so we don't get another one for 5 more years. But they've had to readjust maps already because the poles are shifting. They're moving rapidly. The North Pole's headed towards Siberia. The South Pole's already off the continent of Antarctica and headed towards Indonesia. So this is another weakening. So the things that I'm saying is going to lead to the breakdown in the infrastructure of the planet before your very lives. The first thing that should start to happen is solar flares with a weakened magnetosphere that take out the grid. And it'll be local grid blackouts, maybe cities or quadrants of countries that might be dark for months or years. And then they will fall into like third world hell chaos. So get out of the cities. And you need to be in rural safe places, because if the lights go out here, then you light the torches and you're having a rave. I mean, it's that simple. There's a lot of safe places you can be. But the ultimate thing is that so the ruse has been happening since the 1940s. NASA was created for disinformation, and the CIA came out of that. And then the rabbit hole goes deeper. So please do your own research there. But what's happening is a disinformation campaign. The countries and the powers that be know that these catastrophic events are approaching, and they may use it as fodder to start a war or local wars using EMP, where they could falsify a flare and take out a whole country. So this is another consideration I'm sure Donovan has. So I think it's important to be in a rural area, in a city where the entire city is literally capable of restarting and reorganizing as a community, which Crestone has been practicing to do for 31 years by these events. I think there might be some divisions in bigger cities where I live, like Pagosa, where there's thousands of people. But huge cities are all that's just off limits, like Mad Max shit. But like I said, Leah and I live on a dead-end road, and we already have a network and a community. We can block the road off. We can become our own Valhalla Valley. I mean, there's so many guns in Colorado. So there's that. Go ahead.
And so do you really think the cities will be Mad Max, or do you think that at a certain point, humans are actually smarter than that, and it's not the majority of us that are going to go Mad Max, and we might actually hold it together, and suddenly, I don't know.
In a big city?
Yeah.
Well, usually what happens in a big city, the water stops and people all get giardia and start pooping. It's terrible.
Fair enough.
Oh.
Concession, my man.
It's not going to ever be roses there.
Too bad, you're right, sorry.
I need power in a few months, and I was planning on getting panels. Like, what is a better alternative if I'm not making my own biogas?
Panels is the only alternative for people like us, but not for the whole world. That's ridiculous. If we all, we've powered businesses on panels, it would be dirty quick. If you want a safe place in a rural area, I would say get an amazing solar generator like the Bluetti. This is quite an investment. You can run an entire house on a little box like this for $2,000, and all you need is 2 or 3 solar panels to charge that up every day. And so you're limiting your footprint. You're not going balls to the walls, as they say. And so that might be the best alternative in the near term. And then while you learn how to make biodiesel, and you practice and you screw up, stuff like that. So
What was that, Blue Eddy?
the Bluetti is a very high-end solar battery.
Can you spell it?
Bluetti.
I like that. Got it.
Yeah, it's being used right now on our neighbor's property. He's running a freezer on it and everything else in 2 trailers on just 3 panels.
So what are these guys doing?
Let's party. Any other questions?
What's your price per watt?
Straight up.
We got it. Well, there's someone that is interested in maybe seeing if you'd be interested in a conversation.
Yeah.
Where it's more of a group dialogue.
Yeah.
Got a mic
Okay. Thanks. All right, we're going to have some kind of a dialogue. This should be interesting.
It should be. It will be. It's just me. Hello, so I shake hands, but I'm also social distancing.
LARPy.
So Diamond, I read your resume. A lot of respect for your work and your study. Thank you very much. So I just acknowledged the resume and the accomplishments of Diamond.
We have volume there?
Can we turn this on so people can hear?
Straightforward?
He's got it.
Try now.
Try it.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear you.
All right, so my name's Pamela Ramade. I'm also known in the Crestone community as Grammy Pammy. I live at the far end of the Baca in a very sustainable home that I built in '06 with the help and the assistance of many of the brilliant people who put together the Crestone Energy Fair. So thank you very much for that. I thought it would be fun, under the definition of dialogue, 2 or more people learning together, for me to share my question. And it's a genuine question, Diamond, and it's clarifying, and I want to promise you that no matter what you say, that you and I might disagree, and we probably agree on 99.9%, but there's a question I want to ask for the benefit of what I think is my sustainable community here, is that we are still living within a system called the United States. We are still citizens of one of the countries of the planet. We don't have the option yet to sign on. I'll be a world citizen instead of a U.S. citizen. So we're still, so far, U.S. citizens. In the beginning of your message, I was a little concerned that you're suggesting give up on being a U.S. citizen and not be fully engaged in our democratic process, which also includes educate yourself on the issues, figure out who has dedicated their life to upholding certain principles, including the freedom to express our beliefs around ecology and protecting the planet, and exercising our right to vote. So I'm not sure if you said, don't bother voting, it doesn't matter.
No, I didn't.
Thank you. Please clarify your position on
Well,
that.
here's the problem. The 2-party system is part of the control mechanism. There are many other worthy choices, but they're just not allowed to gain traction. There's actually a Green Party that I was a member of for about a decade in Philadelphia that would actually help protect the planet from pollution.
Yes.
But they're just not, they're kept out, and so they create a political divide where you get to choose that side or this side. But either side, this side has a bunch of good stuff, but half of that shit I don't like. And this side's got a bunch of, but half of that shit I don't like. But why can't I choose the one I like? Because you're not allowed.
Yeah, it is a 2-party system.
So this is really what I found, because I worked in politics for a while, is that the best way to affect your local systems is by supporting local government, because those are actual representative democracies where you can get results.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's my position.
Nice.
Vote locally.
Yes. And when you get your ballot, it's going to have politicians local that you maybe have had the privilege to know and meet, and then it's going to have the national who are also backed tremendously internationally by a whole lot of money. And it's your civic duty, just as much as it's your duty to protect the planet, is to protect the governmental systems that control our ability to protect the planet. So Do your homework. Figure out which of those two candidates, Trump or Biden, is going to support your values and your principles so that you continue to have the freedom of choice on how to live, whether it's sustainably on the earth or whether, something else happens. That's my view.
Well said.
Thank you.
All right, it's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you for inviting me, and I'll see you next year.